Welcome to another edition of Real, Raw, and Honest, where we begin to take a look at those things that have made us who we are, invite Jesus in, get some inner healing, release those things to Him so that we can become the version that He's created us to become. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a little look. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be. I've kind of run out of a little bit of time here, but I want to touch on the whole aspect of anger. And I want to talk about suppressed anger, to be completely honest. And maybe you know what I'm talking about when I say this. Maybe it's you, or maybe it's somebody that you know. And you're good most of the time, 90% of the time. You feel great. You don't have any issues. You're not angry. You don't even feel angry anymore. You're just kind of walking around and doing life. And then all of a sudden something happens. And it doesn't have to be something big. And all of a sudden there's this eruption that happens inside of you. And you find yourself yelling or, breaking something, throwing something. You're just enraged. And there's this verbal volcanic rush that comes out of your mouth, and people around you, their eyes are wide and they're looking, they're going, what just happened here? Am I at fault for saying what I said or for being here? Did I do something? And you find that afterward people come to you and they go, you know what? You're scary when you're angry. And maybe you feel that way about somebody else. And it could be anybody. It could be your boss. It could be your pastor. It could be a friend. It could be your husband or wife. We see those things. It can indeed be terrifying. When the person that you know to be the one that's usually nice and steady Eddy in their walk, they're going along and there's no outbursts and there's none of that going on. And you're just like, wow, here I am. What do I do with this? Right? Where do I put this person now? And how do I help them? Can I help them? And so it leaves this big space of uncertainty in the lives of the people that are around them. So maybe that's you and maybe it's not. But at any rate, let's talk about it. Let's find out, where does this come from? Well, I think the best place to start is to always look at our childhood and go, people who grew up in a childhood where they were not allowed to express their opinions, their thoughts, or their feelings. They weren't allowed to have the big people conversations or to ask questions when something is going wrong. And they're just supposed to always be happy. Many of us, many years ago, grew up in an environment we were told that children were to be seen and not heard. And so that gives you a basic idea of what that means, right? Like, you are there to be seen, you're there to be proper, or you're there to be pretty, you're there to be handsome, you're there to be an assistant to whatever is going on, you're to work hard, and you're supposed to never say anything that's going to rock the boat. Seen and not heard. So if you see an injustice and you see something going on in your world, maybe you are in an environment where, you have an enraged parent and, you walk in on, or it is a regular occurrence where there's this injustice that's going on of the parent abusing, hitting one of your siblings, or maybe it's been happening to you, and you go, this is an injustice, and I approach the parent to say, why do you do that? And it just causes this whole nother scenario of more rage, more word damage coming over you, and you're going, how do I manage this? So you learn to be silent in the place of disrespect. You learn to be silent in the face of injustice, because speaking out is more damaging than being silent. So you learn how to take those things and stuff them down inside of you. So you might see injustice as a child, but you don't do anything about it. And then when you become an adult, you become a justice warrior. All of a sudden, you're all about the kids that are getting abused, and it's not right and it's not fair. You're the first one to speak out. You have lots to say about it. You get angry about it. Maybe you don't get enraged and volcanically, expressively enraged, but it enrages you to see the kind of injustice that happened to you as a child, or that happened to the people that you loved as a child. Another area that we can see where this kind of anger, this explosive kind of anger comes from, is when you're in a place of disrespect. Again, children are to be seen and not heard. So other people, adult people can say things, hurtful things, harmful things, damaging things even. And you can't say anything, but you feel the shame just wash over your body. And you're feeling the heat of that in the moment, but you can't say anything. Because if you say anything, that's worse than just hearing it and walking away. But what that sets you up for is that when you go to school and when you have friends, it puts you in the position where I'm just going to allow it to happen, because you know what? It's better if I just let it happen. If I'm that person that other people can dump on, because maybe I can make them feel better. Maybe if I say anything, I'll get rage instead. And we don't want to go there. So you self-protect, and so you just begin to continually put those emotions down and under. Maybe as a child, you were lied to. Maybe you were promised things and things never came to pass. Yes, on Saturday we're going to go to the store and you can buy that thing that you want to get. Yes, on Saturday we're going to go to town and I'll buy you the winter jacket that you need. But then Saturday comes and it doesn't happen. And you're like, okay, well, that's just another letdown, another huge disappointment. What do I do with it now? And so you're left kind of holding the bag. You're left going, what do I do with these feelings and with these emotions? I can't trust my parents. I've got no place to go. And so maybe what you do is when you're about 16, 15, whenever you get your first job and you begin to buy your own things, because that way when you go to school, at least you know you've got books, you've got pens, you've got pencils, you've got new clothes, you've got some things that you need. And so you feel the injustice of that, because it should be the parents taking care of the children. But the parents, they look at you and they go, great job for you taking, that step and meeting your needs. Like, you're so responsible. But there's that injustice that sits below the surface. And there's rage attached to that. There's anger attached to that. Maybe you grew up in a home where you were gaslit, where if you said anything or you did anything, you bring it forward and you say, why did you do this? Why did you hit me? Why did you hit my sibling? Why did you do these things? And that's turned on you like you're not perfect either. I saw you hit your brother or your sister the other day, and I heard you say all kinds of awful things against them, and you're gaslit, and then it becomes your fault. It becomes your problem. You're no better. You might be seeing the injustice, but the balance isn't the same, because the reality is you're a child in a situation with siblings, and maybe you just don't get along all the time with your siblings. That's very normal. But you've got parents that are doing these things, and that makes that power differential very, very different. Looking at that and going, all right, that anger is, what do I do with it? Because as a child, but you can't say anything. The gaslighting that happens in those environments. And so what happens is that we are angry, but we can't say anything about it. We're angry and we can't do anything about it. Because when we were a child, when we were angry and we displayed that anger, that was wrong. Maybe you were told it's not okay for little girls to get angry. Well, then what do little girls do? Why shouldn't little girls get angry? It's not okay for little girls to talk back. It's not okay for little girls to tell an adult what's right and what's wrong. You need to sit down and you need to be seen and not heard and be helpful and do all these other things. And so there's that anger, because now here you are. If I say anything, I'm going to be punished. But there's rage. There's anger in there at the injustices that are going on around you. Maybe you were told that your anger was bad, that, the reason something happened was because it's your fault. If you wouldn't have done your homework first and made supper and instead made the meal for the family, then maybe dad wouldn't have been angry. Maybe if you would have put somebody else's needs ahead of your own, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. Maybe if you would have done the dishes, then mom wouldn't be upset at the end of the day because when she walked into the kitchen, the dishes are all there. Maybe it's those things, all of those things, it becomes your fault. They place it on you. Mom's anger is a direct result of what you did or did not do. So again, it's your fault. You're the problem. Shame comes from these places as well. There's a deep underlying shame that comes from this kind of a situation when you're growing up in that. So the thing is when we can't express it, when we can't talk about it, when we can't address the problem, but we know that it's wrong, that anger sits inside of us and we just press it down. We suppress it. We push it and push it and push it and push it. And then when something happens, and it doesn't have to be a big thing, all of a sudden, boom, it's all over the place. So the thing is, that comes from that place of not having any place to release it. You don't know the Lord. You don't know that you can pray. You don't have a friend that you can talk to. There's no place to release it. So what do you do with it? You hold on to it. And so eventually this becomes pushed to our subconscious level, and it becomes pushed to a place where we don't think about it. We don't realize how angry we are. And I don't remember, I was talking about fear, stress, and anxiety. But the thing is just as when we live in this fishbowl of stress, we might not realize what level of stress we have or what level of fear we're at. And we can go through and we're going, oh, I'm fine. And you're at a 6 or a 7, but then all of a sudden you get to an 8 and all of a sudden you're like overwhelmed with the level of stress that you're under or the level of fear that you're feeling. Well, anger is the same way. And that's how this kind of explosive event happens, is that we're walking around, we're talking, we're doing what we always do, and we don't realize that we are angry enough, that we're at a level almost 8. And so all it takes is one thing, one comment, one situation, one person cutting us off. All it takes is that one event that somebody came to dinner and maybe they didn't bring the salad they said they were going to bring. And now there's this blow up, this explosion that takes place. Maybe you went to the store and forgot to pick something up, and then there's the explosion. So those are the things that cause the explosion. And it comes from that place of growing up in a home where you were not allowed to express, where you saw injustices but couldn't address them, when you saw things or were told things or were lied to, where you were gaslit. All of those things are areas inside of our life where we hold on to those things until we can't hold on to them anymore. So the thing is when it comes to something like complex trauma, which is growing up in that environment, an environment like that, there is that sense, that knowing that it shouldn't have been the way it was, that maybe your life, your home life, wasn't as good as you were told it was, right? And so what ends up happening then is you find yourself as an adult and you're at work or you're at church or somewhere, and somebody says something to you and you feel it's disrespectful, or it sounds disrespectful, or it's meant to be disrespectful. And everything inside of you just comes rushing out, right? Disrespect. I don't get heard. I can't stand it when I'm not heard. I'm angry when I get overlooked. I don't like it when I'm not seen. Those can be some of the things that make us respond out of our anger. It can also be that we see something that's unfair. You've worked at a position and a job for 10 years. You're more than qualified to take the position that's being offered for a promotion. You qualify. You've been doing the job behind the scenes for your boss for the last year. He has been telling you, yes, you're going to get the position. Yes, I'm going to make you my associate pastor. Yes, I'm going to do this thing. It's like the little carrot. You believe it because you're hoping that this time it's going to be different. You're believing and you're putting yourself out there just a little bit to believe that maybe this time this person's not going to lie to me. And then all of a sudden, when it comes down to it, all of a sudden you start to feel this coolness from your boss. All of a sudden you start to feel this distance, and you're going, what's going on? Only to find out that they've decided that somebody else is going to get the position, and that person is not as qualified as you are. And that will cause rage. You are hurt, you are angry, you've been lied to yet again. And so it's those things that touch on the things that you went through as a child that cause that anger to come to the surface. You know, you're married to somebody and your spouse cheats, or maybe, and this is more common, is that, you know, you're in a relationship, in a friendship, you tell somebody something at work and they betray your confidence, or they lie about you and betray what you believed was a relationship to be able to get what they want on the sly. Maybe they want to be considered for something. Maybe they want to start something and they don't want you included in it. And the only way they can get what they want is to lie about you and to betray you. You know, maybe you've done the right thing and somebody else got hurt because you did the right thing. And that rage and that anger is going to be poured out as they start to betray you and talk to everybody around you, as they gossip about the things that they say you're guilty of, that you're not guilty of. Those are the things that can cause that anger to erupt and that anger to be poured out like a volcano. It's instant. It feels like you can't pull it back because it's so full. You're so full of the anger. There's no way to pull it back. So what do you do in those situations, right? It's that volcanic eruption. And all that pent up anger that comes out in those moments is damaging. It's damaging to you, and it's damaging to the people that you spew it out onto. Because the present situation is not the situations you came out of. The present situation where your anger erupted is not the same as being that child where you had to stuff it. But you've never learned how to deal with your anger, because little girls are not supposed to be angry. Because it's okay for a child to be seen and not heard. You are there not for you to tell people what you feel about a situation, but for other people to tell you how you feel. Which is another one, by the way. When you're told as a child and you come up and you go, I'm sad because nobody wants to play with me, and then you're told, oh, you're not sad. Or you say, I'm angry because that person just took my truck and broke it. They stomped on it in front of me and I'm angry. And you're told, you're not angry. Then you're left with this sense of confusion as well. So let's take a look quickly. How do we deal with this? How do we deal with the anger? Well, the one thing I say consistently, and it applies to this as well, is to look at the situation of your anger. And I always tell people, try to back it up a little bit, right? Because if you can go back just a little bit, if you can look in the situation and you can go, what was it that really made me angry about this situation? You can stop the eruption before it starts if you're aware, but that takes some doing and it takes some time. But when the explosion has happened and now you feel very remorseful and angry and sorrowful about your actions, what do you do with it? Well, you have to take it to the Lord. And you have to ask the Lord, where is that coming from? What am I feeling? Not the anger, but what's lying behind it. Is it the injustice that I feel? Is it that I was lied to? Is it that I was betrayed? Is it that, I was gaslit? Is it that I wasn't heard? They wanted to know my opinion. I told them what I thought, and then it was like I never said a word. What is it that you're feeling that's contributing to that rage inside of you? And then you have to take that to the Lord and you say to the Lord, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I did not know that this was there. And I'm asking you to come into my life right now and to heal my inner part, to heal my heart and to heal my soul of that betrayal, of that wound, of that injustice, of the lying, of the deceit, of whatever it was that I went through as a child. And I'm asking you, Lord, as I forgive the people, my dad, my mom, my siblings, my pastor, whoever it is, and you're putting that in front of me. I'm forgiving them. I'm giving the whole situation to them because they didn't realize what they were doing to me when they did this. They didn't know they were setting me up to be rage filled. They didn't know that they were setting me up to have a volcanic eruption in temperament. What they knew is that worked for them in the moment, and it was better to shut me down so that they looked good. But Lord, I forgive them for what they did. I forgive them for harming me. I forgive them for lying to me. I forgive them, Lord, for setting me up in this way. And you hand that over to the Lord. You have to acknowledge the fact that you are and that you do have that kind of anger, and then you release it to the Lord. And you take your anger and you take that person and you hand them to the Lord, and you just say, here you go, Lord. I don't want to carry this anymore. Come and heal. Come and heal that part of me that witnessed disrespect, that part inside of me that was betrayed as a child, that was lied to as a child. Come and heal that by your Holy Spirit right now. And then you could just take authority over that spirit of anger and you could command it to go. I'm not saying it's going to be a one-time deal. What I'm saying is that this is the process of getting the healing. But we have to find out where it came from. We have to know why. What made us angry in the first place? Because that's the root that we need to pull out. That's the thorn that we need to pull out of our being and give to the Lord so that we can walk in a different spirit and so that we can walk as Jesus walked while he was on the earth. We cannot say that every time we get angry, it's righteous anger, because most of the time it's not. But just to give that to the Lord and say, here I am, Lord. Cleanse me. Allow your way, your will to be done in me. And no, it doesn't mean that you're bad just because you have something like this happen in your life. It doesn't mean that your anger makes you sinful. It doesn't mean that your anger makes you, not loved by the Lord. What it means is we need inner healing. So take that to the Lord and begin there. And the Lord will walk you through it. You'll need tools to learn how to handle your anger, to heal, to know how to handle the disrespect, to know how to handle the betrayal. And as we learn those tools, God will come in and he will do what only he can do. And so those tools will be coming at another time, but have yourself a great day. Be encouraged, be blessed. God loves you. Have yourself a great day.